This is the Secret Suds Society, where we pierce the veil, pull back the curtain, and shine a light on the breweries and beers you know and love. Brothers, sisters, initiates, and prospective members alike are welcome. Won't you join us?
Hey everybody, and welcome to the second episode of the Secret Suds Society. I am one of your hosts, Lucas. With me, as always, is Jack and Cody and all three of us make up the heads of the Ale Illuminati. And we have a very special guest with us today. We are joined by Karl from Haggard Brewing. Karl, how are you doing today?
Not too bad. How about you guys?
Not too bad. Thanks for joining us,
Fantastic
Karl.
day.
Yeah, so Karl here, just starting out with Haggard Barrel Brewing out of St. Louis Park, Minnesota, so in the Twin Cities metro, and he agreed to hop on and just tell us a little bit about what he's doing and starting out here, and we're just gonna go from there. So Karl, yeah, give us a little bit of background on what you're doing now and kind of where you've been, and like I said, we'll go from there.
Yeah, for sure. So Haggard Barrel, just a really small, started as a side project. Um, Currently the head brewer over at Blackstack. That time is actually coming shortly to a close here at the end of May. I'll be moving on and devoting a little more time over at Haggard. Started brewing a long time ago. Obviously, just like a lot of pro brewers, started as a home brewer, kind of caught the bug early. The Surly bill was passed when I turned 21, so tap rooms opening right when I turned 21. We caught it really early. We were the guys who showed up to the college party with a 24 pack of EPA at the kegger because we didn't want to drink Busch Light or whatever. So we started with our snooty craft beer drinking young, and from there it just kind of exploded. A business partner and I started 12 Eyes Brewing in 2017. That was around until about 2019. In that time, I went to the American Brewers Guild brewing program, secured a internship with the Lost Abbey. I worked with them for a while down in San Diego. And from there went on to Liftbridge. I was at Liftbridge for about 3 years, moved up to lead brewer, and from there went over to Blackstack, where I was just at Blackstack for almost exactly 2 years. So.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, last time I talked to you, you were still planning to just stay at Blackstack and just kind of keep this as your baby on the side. So that's news to me, but I mean, it sounds like that's probably a good thing because you need to devote more time to it. That means it's obviously your start is going pretty well so far. So, I mean, that's good to hear, but I'm sure they'll miss you there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always good to go on good terms too. They've been nothing but extremely gracious to me and crazy helpful. I mean, almost every single time I have an event or, our soft open, they were there. We did a big burger pop up on Mother's Day. They were there. They've been supporting us the entire way. So it's really cool to leave on good terms and know that if we ever need any help, that they're there to help us. They've got insanely great connections in terms of they're really good at selecting hops, and I know that they'll always be open to us buying whatever extra they've got, or if we need a brick of USO5 or something like that, they're always there to help us out. So super great. They've been nothing but gracious to us, and I cannot say enough good things about them.
Yeah, that's awesome. So devoting some more time to Haggard, just give us kind of a high level what you guys are doing right now, where you're at. Obviously I've seen it, but for people maybe haven't seen that, your situation right now, it's different than I would say most breweries start out, but I also kind of admire the approach that you're taking. So
Yeah, so I mean, we can kind of get into what Haggard means to us too.
Yeah.
Haggard kind of means a little disheveled, a little well worn. The equipment we have, we kind of cobbled together from a lot of different places. With our industry experience, kind of felt like we could make good beer on anything. So it kind of started as this side project of us just, making something work, putting some beer out into distribution and seeing if it takes off. Um, we are 100% employee owned. We want to stay that way. A lot of times breweries will get to a point where people want to get out of certain roles and they want to expand, they want to do other things. Our goal isn't necessarily a crazy amount of growth. I don't want to make 5,000 barrels a year if I don't have to. If we cap out and make 1,000 barrels a year, that's enough for us, and I think that can still support us in the very small team that we want to have here. And I think that people being owners and having skin in the game will also give them that extra motivation to want to help us as a team grow. Um, yeah, and I guess that's kind of where we're at. We're taking a little bit of a different approach. It's not just grow, 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 distribute, distribute, distribute. We do distribute right now. We don't have a tap room yet. That's kind of just our slow growth to getting to being able to pour people beers. And even from there, we're not, like Jack said, I think our entire facility is no more than 3,000 square feet. It's pretty small. The tap room will be pretty small, probably 20 seats once we get it open. Um, but we're just kind of going for a little bit of a different aesthetic than you might see uh, around the United States these days. When places are opening these days, it almost feels like they're all ordering their equipment from the same catalog, or not even equipment. They're all ordering their furniture from the same catalog. They all kind of have the same idea for what they want their tap room to look like. It just doesn't really feel craft to us anymore. So we kind of wanted to take a step back and go back to, well, what did it look like 10 years ago when people were just cobbling together things that they could and making it work? We always make the joke that it's going to be Minnesota's first dive brewery. It's not going to be super polished, but we're going to make some killer lager. We're going to make some cool stout. We'll branch out into some other things. It seems like our fruited sour has kind of taken off more than we thought it would. We should have known better that people love fruit. So, but yeah, so it's just kind of that dive aesthetic and keeping things real. And I want it to be a place where when you walk through the door, you see either myself, you see my partner Zach, you see our other partner Gabe. It's one of us behind the bar, or if our team grows and we get more partners in there, it's going to be an owner that you're talking to behind the bar all the time. It's not going to be someone that doesn't really care about beer and is there for some tips. You're going to get to talk to us. We know everything about the product we're selling you. We have an invested interest in making it the best possible experience for you. And that's kind of our goal right now, is just to get to a point where the three of us can be full-time employees. And we'll see what happens from there. If there's a little bit more growth left, then we'll take it. But we're not really pushing to be the next. I mean, I don't, it's pretty hard to become surly these days, but we're not trying to get big.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hearing you kind of explain that and still being open to people and being around, like, that's something that I always appreciate from places that I'm supporting is when you can, I mean, literally you can talk to the owner, you can talk to the brewer, you can hear about the process. It doesn't feel like you're being shut out and you're just another customer buying beer. That's something I admire about that. You mentioned your fruited sour, so you can kind of go through. I have another question about that one specifically that I think people like, but the beers that you started with, I know right now. So I'm drinking Amber Waves. This is the the Vienna lager that you guys brewed with Wooden Ship, which is another local Minneapolis brewery. Cody, you're drinking Schlaps.
Yes, sir. The first one I decided to go with tonight, but I also have provisional stacks, which I absolutely love. So
yeah, so you guys have done, what would that be, 4 beers now to this point?
Yep, and we've got a couple more coming next week. We've got a stout in the tank that we're going to be splitting out into a barrel, and then we'll probably do a little bit of a can release sometime later this summer. So
okay. And what's the initial feedback on those beers? I mean, I've tried them all. Honestly, I think they're all really good, but it seems like Schlaps is kind of the one that people are really gravitating towards, but then, you know, you do a you do a collaboration with Blackstack, people are always going to like that.
Yeah, we had a couple stores right away find out that we were Blackstack guys, and we're like, Blackstack, huh? Where's the hazy IPA? You know, we came with a couple lagers and a fruit and sour, and they said
Yeah.
that's great, but if we could put this next to an IPA, and you know, then we could sell all four of them.
Yeah.
So like, okay, we knew we were going to be collabing with Blackstack. We didn't really know that it would necessarily be a hazy IPA, but it does make sense. I mean, we were able to use some killer hops. Like I said, the hops they use over there, it's still a nuanced process. It's not necessarily easy to brew a hazy IPA, but it's a lot easier when the products you're using are top shelf.
Yeah.
You were talking about your distribution. You said you're in stores right now, and are you self-distributing as well?
Yep. So Gabe, who I mentioned earlier, one of our partners, he's running sales right now, doing an awesome job. You know, for 2, sometimes 3 days a week, he's crushing it. I think we're in 12 or 14 stores now. Just secured our first couple draft accounts. Actually just went on at Tilia in Minneapolis today. You know, really nice restaurant, really big win for us to start getting some respect in that regard. Draft lines for a brewery as small as we are, it's really hard. It's hard to get them, and then it's hard to hold them because we're going to be rotating so much that it's hard to keep people interested and ready for the next thing. But yeah, so we have a little bit of self distro going. We do sell to go out of the brewery as well, and that's been going a lot better than we expected. No tap room. We were kind of worried that would just be a dud, and we'd have to, you know, not that we'd have to stop doing it, but that it just wouldn't really be worth our time. But for Friday and Saturday, usually we're selling, you know, we're seeing at least 20 customers on a Friday, and maybe sometimes more on Saturday. So it's been pretty nice. A lot of locals are starting to hear about us too, so helping us worry a little less about distributing.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think you guys have been doing a really good job too of, you know, kind of handling that hurdle. You know, obviously it's not ideal, but like what, Mother's Day, you guys had a smash burger pop up. Bunch of people showed up for that, bought some beer, new beer release, some samples. So you know, it's about as close as you can get to a taproom experience without, you know, being able to open up cans on site. But
Yep.
yeah, I think you guys have been doing just fine with that, I think. And I mean, last time I talked to you a couple weeks ago, I think you told me you guys had 4 accounts. So now you're already up to
Yeah.
12. That's
Yeah.
that's good growth. If
Yeah,
I'm doing my math right.
Yeah.
But so you mentioned your fruited sour, Glonky. First of all, I want you to tell the story behind that name, which some people might recognize, but some people
Yeah.
might not. And then the story of brewing it for the first time, because I think that is like Haggard, just the epitome of it, and kind of just taking things as they come and doing whatever you need to.
Yeah, rolling with the punches has definitely been a part of the experience. So Glonky is it's a reference to an old, I think it might have even been YouTube at the time. I don't even know if it was a Vine or if it was something past YouTube, but it was this, you know, those street interviewers. This guy comes up to a guy who's very clearly, you know, zonked. He's out of his mind, and he asks him, hey man, how's it going?" And the guy goes, I'm pretty glonky. I'm fine. So I don't know. It's always just, it was actually planned on being our THC line was going to be called Glonky. City of St. Louis Park, unfortunately, is not letting us create THC beverages until the Cannabis Management Office for Minnesota opens in 25. So we thought it was just such a great name, and you know, with making THC beverages, it was going to be a fruit combination kind of soda anyway. So we thought, all right, we can take what we thought was going to be, you know, that can art and design, and still use it because we really like that kaleidoscopic kind of design to it. I'm really excited for you guys to see the next round of it, and it's going to keep being kind of a cool little kaleidoscope of fruits. And the fun story about brewing it the first time, I had planned on brewing on a Saturday, and FedEx was due to deliver the yeast on a Friday. They didn't show up, said that they would be back on Saturday, which seemed a little weird. You know, it's a Saturday. It's kind of a toss up. Sometimes they come, sometimes they don't. So I called customer service just to make sure. I was like, I see online that it says tomorrow morning. If that's true, that's totally fine. So I get there early Saturday, mashed in by 6:30, 7. Day's plugging along. I'm almost to a kettle full by 9:30, 10, and I decide to look online to see where my yeast is at. 9:45, they said, yeah, we tried to we were here and you weren't there, so we'll deliver it on Monday. I was like, yeah, no, you won't. You'll deliver it today. So I start calling dispatch. FedEx apparently they don't require their drivers to carry cell phones. So they kept giving me the runaround about they couldn't get him on dispatch. They wouldn't let me meet him anywhere. They wouldn't let me come down to the facility to get it. So, and I know that they just kind of drove by and didn't check because our garage door was open the whole time.
Yeah, it's like it's the
You've
meme
been
of
to our
them running
spot,
up to
Jack,
the
like
door and they just stick the post-it note and
Oh.
sprint away.
And customer service admitted that the guy never printed one of those tickets. They have the little Palm Pilots, and they can tell when they print those tickets. He never printed one, so he never came. Like, he just find out that it's a guy who never has that route on a Saturday. Whatever. Too long, didn't read. FedEx did not deliver the yeast. So we're in a pickle. I've got a kettle full of wort that's almost boiling, and I have no yeast. And this kind of goes back to how Blackstack has been so fucking gracious and helpful to us. Another way to sour beer that some people have used in their kettle is yogurt. So we decided, let's run down to Blackstack. Let's get a clean fermenting USO5 strain. We'll co-ferment it with some of this yogurt and we'll see how it goes. Fingers crossed. That's pretty much the best we can do right now, unless we wanted it to be a really, really boring American ale, which we didn't have hops in, it was going to be a mess. So we go down, obviously we're running through Whole Foods, we're running through every grocery store trying to find live cultured yogurt. Finally found that Siggy's had the right, not the right, but it had a strain of lactobacillus that I recognize and I've used before. So we bought out their supply of Siggy's yogurt and we used Siggy's yogurt as our souring agent for this beer. Ended up being not quite as tart as a lot of sours can get because we didn't really fully kettle sour it, but it did acidify the wort pretty well. And as you can taste it, it's tart. We feel comfortable calling it a sour, but definitely leans on that lighter side of sour, but kind of turned into a happy accident. And just kind of roll with the punches, man. We've had to roll with the punches the entire time we've been open. If it's not that, it's we've had issues with glycol, we've had issues with holding tank pressure, we've had issues with some of the equipment being left behind that doesn't work the way that it was supposed to. And it was just another day. So it was really nice that we could lean on our experience in that moment and just kind of roll with it and say, fuck it. Fuck it, we ball today. We're making a sour today.
Yeah, and I tried it and it was fantastic, I thought. I mean, you would never know that it was just you guys were just standing at the top dumping a bunch of yogurt into the.
Oh, yeah. And if you ever come back, I'll show you the bright tank. We actually ended up fermenting it in a bright tank because we didn't have any. We were just packing our tanks.
Yeah.
And it was through that little door on the bottom. So I was hands and knees scooping. I think it was like 24 individual cups of Siggy's into that tank, trying to get it done before knockout. But
oh my god. That's awesome.
We did end up getting a free pitch of the souring yeast out of it too. So we did end up ahead. At the time I was pulling my hair out thinking, oh no, there goes $1,000 worth of grain, but it turned out all right.
All right. Well, the other thing you'd mentioned, as far as some of the places you'd been, 12 Eyes, which a lot of people probably haven't heard of, honestly, but it's kind of like it's like an urban legend in Minneapolis, Minnesota beer culture. I feel like I still see people on Facebook groups and stuff bringing it up. Oh, I miss 12 Eyes, the old 12 Eyes building, and you were a part of making that happen. So just run us through kind of what happened and obviously it's not around anymore, but I'm also interested to kind of know, why are you taking another crack at it? I think a lot of people
You
would
learn
be
your lesson
scared
the
off
hard way.
from that, but like I think you've probably learned a lot from that. So it's kind of a two-sided, coin with it. But yeah, just kind of tell us what went on there, and kind of what you're taking from that with Haggard.
Yeah, so 12 Eyes started. My business partner and I started 12 Eyes in 2015, I think, and by 2017 we were finally open in the Pioneer Endicott building. If you ever want to go and see the brewery that we built, and now another brewery has taken over, it's called Gambit Brewing. It's down in St. Paul. They make excellent beer. Um, Really awesome tap room. They didn't really change a whole lot. They changed some of the artwork. They kept the color scheme kind of repainted, and kind of kept the main thrust of what we were trying to lay out for downtown St. Paul. Um, Essentially, what happened was we had this plan for a really nice tap room, and that's why I say, like, please do go down and check it out, because it is an awesome tap room. Very proud of the tap room we built there. Um, but we built it in a time where we thought that a tap room only model could still work, and especially in downtown St. Paul, we thought we had a handle on parking. We thought we had a handle on a lot of things that just turned out to be really, really inhibitive to being a taproom only environment. Um, you know this from being a Minnesotan. Downtown St. Paul, my dad says it this way: downtown St. Paul rolls up the red carpet at 6:30. At 7 o'clock, there is nobody walking the streets of downtown St. Paul. It's the creepiest downtown area in America. I think it's super eerie. Like you'd you'd head out our front door and look all the way up to 7th Street, not a soul. You'd look all the way down to CHS Field, not a soul. Uh, on top of the fact that just to get someone through our door, they had to pay $4 to find a spot for their car to park. So it also didn't help that one of the best breweries in, I think, Minnesota was open across Mears Park, in an area that had a little more going on. That was Barrel Theory, and they just make excellent beer. So if you had a choice between parking your car on our side of Mears Park and coming over to us and then having nowhere to go afterwards, it seemed like a pretty easy choice to go to where, in my opinion, the beer was, really, really stellar. And then you could also go and get some chicken strips at Bulldog afterwards if you want to, or Dark Horse Bar was right next door. It just ended up being a really, really tough environment, and we were highly leveraged because it was an extremely nice build out. And that's, again, go down and see it, man, because it was a spendy project. And that kind of leaned into, why would I do it again, is I learned a lot about how that leverage um, really was what did us in. I think our bottom line was crazy just to get to every month, between the SBA loan that we had, and just all the other, rent was crazy. I mean, rent is probably 2 times what I'm paying now in St. Louis Park, and then on top of that, our SBA loan was massive. It was a historic building, so all the build out that we did took tons and tons of money. The owner of the building at the time put in tons of money. It was a huge project, and it just almost didn't go. We were that close to bringing in a canning line to get our beer out. We distributed crawlers for a while. That kept us afloat for a while, but crawlers are just such a garbage method of putting beer in can. It just, especially with the Minnesota wide mouth ones, you give that thing 3 days and it's just as bad as a growler, in my opinion. So um, yeah, it was a tough environment. I think it was a really good idea if we had had a couple different tweaks to it. If we'd have just been a little more prepared and a little more ready, that the taproom only model was just not super viable anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cody, I know you had some questions about.
Yeah, I do. I
competitions.
yeah, it's not just competition. I actually have one that I'm far more curious about. So correct me if I'm wrong, but Provisional Stacks is brewed with Citra and Mosaic
You got it.
and Cryo as well, correct?
Yep, of both varieties.
Okay, so this kind of leads me to the question of what, obviously Citra is like a mainstay in most IPAs. What drove you to do Citra Mosaic in your first IPA?
I guess in my opinion, that's kind of the classic hazy IPA combo. Um, Another brewery that I just mentioned them earlier. I know that Barrel Theory has an absolutely banging Citra and Mosaic hazy IPA. It's tried, it's true. I've never had a hazy IPA. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that, but I've never had a hazy IPA from a brewery that I really like that used Citra and used Mosaic of their own selected lots that have been it just doesn't fit, or just there's some hop in there that doesn't fit with the rest of them. It's Citra and Mosaic. I feel like they just go so well together. It's if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right.
If we want to experiment and branch out from there, we figured that that was just the best place to start.
For sure. Great answer. And I guess that drives my next question, which is, when it comes to hop selection in beer and your beers in general, is there like a specific method that you use, or is it just fuck it, this is what we're feeling kind of thing?
Yeah, there's actually now there's a lot of research that helps us inform our decisions with where we put hops. Before, when it was the IBU battle for West Coast IPAs, a lot of dry hopping was just throw whatever you think works at the wall and see if it sticks. And there are a lot of beers out there. You've probably seen them where they have 6, 7, 8 hop varieties in them, and they just kind of turn into a little bit of a mess.
Yeah.
But Yakima Chief released what's called the survivables chart, and it shows what kind of oil content, what kind of terpene content, what kind of aromatics are in hops, and how they translate downstream. So if a hop doesn't have a lot of survivables in it, you're probably going to want to use it late in your dry hops. You're not going to want to use that in your whirlpool. You're not going to want to use that for an active fermentation dry hopping. So like Citra has tons of survivables. You can use Citra really wherever you want, and it's probably going to turn out great. I know some people hate Sabro, but I just know that Sabro lies on the lower end of the survivables chart. So that would be one that you'd never really want to use. And not that you'd never, but you probably want to use that later on in the process. And then from there, it's looking at aroma characteristics and saying, okay, this one is XYZ aromas and flavors. We'll pair that with this. You might not want to pair Talus and Sabro together because it's going to taste like cedar and coconuts. You might want to cut Sabro with some Citra or some, maybe even some Simcoe, just something a little sharper, something with a little more edge, so that coconut, that like some people call it suntan lotion.
Yeah.
So that doesn't come through too much. I do like Sabro. I'll go on record and say it here on this podcast. On its own, I do not. It has to be a part. It's a player in the blend. But then you kind of just go from there and say, all right, let's look at the survivables chart. Let's kind of map out if we have this idea for citrus, pine, and whatever. All right, let's find some hops that do that. Let's match them up on the survivables chart. Let's see where we kind of want to go from there. And that's kind of my philosophy on at least selecting hops in terms of whirlpool through the dry hop. And then from there, it's just kind of playing with volume and seeing where you want to go with how intense that hop character is going to be. And then it's, anywhere from 3 to 7 pounds per barrel, depending on style, depending on what you're really going for.
Very cool. And then I guess the last question I had before I ask you about the submitting your beers is the wide variety of beers that you decided to brew off the get-go is quite interesting in my opinion. You guys didn't stick to one specific style. Is there a reason behind that, or is it just you wanted to brew what you wanted to brew?
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. And I also wanted it to be a highly collaborative brewery. Every round, you're probably going to see, every 2 or 3 beers, we're going to be collaborating. Out of 3, it's probably going to be 2 of them are going to be collabs. We have a Hellas coming out next week. That's a collaboration with Maltworks. The main rep from Minnesota. She and I worked together at Liftbridge. Was one of my team members at Liftbridge. Obviously, Wooden Ship, the collab. Josh was one of our brewers at 12 Eyes. So that was why I wanted to collab with Wooden Ship right away. Funny story, Josh and I actually never got to brew together over there. So it was like, all right, let's brew together. We did that, and we also did an amazing kvass that they still have on tap over at their place.
Nice.
Love Josh. Can't say enough good things about him. He's another amazing resource that's helped us so much. So thank you, Josh. And from there, we're working on a few others. There's some names being kicked around right now. We're in talks with Hackamore. We're in talks with 9 Mile. We're talking with a few other places, um, just playing it up. And that was one of the reasons we started Haggard Barrel. Was I want to give people and my friends in the industry an opportunity to do things that they might not think that they have time or doesn't fit into the production schedule. I mean, a Vienna lager actually, Wooden Ship actually has a really banging Vienna lager. So maybe that's not the best example of that philosophy, but it's really just, it started as a way to give my brewing friends the ability to come and do something that might not be able to happen at their brewery. I was at Blackstack at the time. I love hazy IPA. I love double IPA. I love triple IPA. I loved everything I was making over there. Big barrel aged stout. Their lager program has come so far. It was awesome, but it was just like, what if I did want to make a kvass, or I did want to, make a Norwegian farmhouse style beer or something like that, go full Kerna and like, go for it. It was just kind of so that we didn't have to worry about anybody's production schedule fitting a brand or anything like that. We just kind of make it work for us. So yeah, it was just, we just want to brew what we want to brew, and we want to do it well and collaborate with our friends and just kind of keep it cool. Just keep having fun with it.
I absolutely love that because I think earlier this year or late last year is when Wooden Ship came out and asked for people's help because they were struggling a little bit. And outside of that, had I not seen that, your guys' Vienna Lager would have been my first introduction to them. So I love the collaboration aspect of it, especially to people out of state who may get a hold of your beers. So super excited to see what you guys can do there. But on to the question of, kind of what is it, the US Open Beer Championship.
Yep.
I know you and I briefly touched on it last weekend, but what kind of drove that? I know, you guys wanted to collect, the ultimate goal is to collect some hardware, but outside of that, is it just kind of something you want to do for your own sake, or is it, kind of owner wide? Just kind of take us through that process and the thought there.
Yeah, it's a low barrier contest, and I feel like it's getting a lot of steam these days. GABF and World Beer Cup are just so expensive to enter. I can't remember, but I think it was like $400 an entry for a World Beer Cup entry.
Wow.
It was crazy. I don't quote me on that. You'll have to look that up. But it's crazy. It's insanely cost prohibitive. And honestly, with so many people entering, it does become, a little bit of a numbers game. There's always a little bit of that with every contest you enter, that there's going to be a lot of good beer, and at some point it's just they have to pick one. Um, Obviously, if any brewer tells you that they don't have any ego wrapped up in what they do, they're lying to your fucking face. Of course, we want to win because we're a really competitive bunch. I know Zach and we come from extremely competitive sports backgrounds. I played a little college football. I know that Zach was even thinking about playing college sports at one time. Um, and it just kind of spawned from that, where there's obviously some benefits to winning medals and things like that. And it would be great for a brewery as small as us to show people that, I can sit here all day and tell you that our beer is high quality, but a medal kind of walks the walk. A funny story: when I was back at Liftbridge, Randy, the head brewer at the time, and I was the lead brewer. We were working on reworking the farm girl recipe. I don't know if you guys might even remember that, where there were very, very small tweaks we made to this recipe, like very small. If you hadn't had farm girl in a couple of years, you probably wouldn't have even noticed. But people went nuts. People were so mad that we changed it, but we brought home a bronze at GABF for it. So at the end of the day, we could always say, that's cool, but like, you're kind of you're objectively wrong. We brought home the first medal won at this brewery by making those tweaks to our flagship beer. There is that competitive and that ego nature where it's just like, we kind of caught a bug, and it does help market. It really does. But being a small brewery and being able to say, we're walking the walk is really the main thrust behind it. It would be nice. And then, they do have a neat part of the judging that doesn't happen at World Beer Cup or Great American Beer Fest. They also judge labels.
Nice.
They judge the artwork on your stuff. We're extremely proud of the artwork that we have on our stuff. Our graphic designer, his name's Josh. He's an absolute wizard. I mean, some of these, like the Amber Waves, like that was just like, here's what I'm thinking, boom. 2 hours later, he's basically nailed it, like completely to a T, with a couple extra frills that just make it fucking pop. So we're excited about that aspect of it too. Is you might not even win for your beer, but you can win for some cool designs on your cans too. So yeah, there's a little bit of ego wrapped up in it, but there's a marketing aspect, and it's kind of just to back up what we want to talk about is beer quality.
Hey man, it works. I was walking through Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport on my way back home a couple weeks ago, and I came across this brewery that had this like billboard out that showed all of the awards they had ever won. And I was like, I've never heard of this brewery. I gotta try this. Is it really award winning? And it worked. They got me in the door and they got me to try their beer. So I mean, if it works, it works. So yeah, super cool.
I can't remember who it was. A brewery in Virginia. I can't remember I should know what their name is. It's not Port Alexandria. Port is in the name, but I've even seen the head brewer, do a lecture on beer quality and quality programs before, and they let out a tweet that was something like, "We make the best beer," and everybody got all butthurt about it and was mad. And then they just posted that they have like 36 GABF and World Beer Cup medals, and it's like, yeah, but I mean,
but we do.
Yeah,
we really do.
Some places struggle to get one their entire career, and this brewery perennially brings them. It's like Hop Foo from North Park. I don't get it. I do get it. It's an amazing, probably the best West Coast around. But man, it's just the sheer number of people who enter. It's amazing that every year it's top 3. Just this past year, World Beer Cup silver medal again.
Yep.
So yeah, you got to give respect to it, and that's kind of where the bar gets set. Is I want to be like those breweries, and if those breweries are competing in that way, then no matter how small we are, I think we can swing with them. So we're gonna try.
Love it.
Yeah, which beers did you enter? All the first 4?
Yep, the first 4, and then the next 2, the Hellas, and then the next version of Blanky got sent. They're on a lot of ice packs. We overnighted up. We'll see how it goes. We've had pretty good luck with it. I think process wise, we gave ourselves the best shot to not create any can bombs. But with those fruited beers, you just never know. You get someone putting it in the back of their car on a 100-degree day, it's just
game over.
I don't know, man. Yes, some people's not fruited beers will explode in the back of a car on a 100-degree day. So, yeah. So yeah, we're entering all 6 of them. We actually planned on entering a 7th. Unfortunately, we did have a beer not make the cut. Like we said, it's all about quality. One of the tanks that we have is not jacketed for glycol. The inner jacket is broken. We tried to make a Kvike hazy IPA because Kvike can ferment super hot, and it just, I don't know. We wanted to see if we can make it work, and I've never really had a Kvike IPA that I've really liked all that much, but we wanted to give it a try because if we can turn an extra 14 barrels out of our system, that increases production by like 25%. So we gave it a shot. Didn't work out. We'll give it another try. We have the label made. We were ready to send it, but we just decided, let's save the cans. This isn't us. We only get one chance to make our first impression. We're on an upward trajectory. Let's not give people a reason to doubt us at this point.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the beer you throw away is almost as important as the beer that you put out. So I think that's a lot, knowing when to call it. But so the ones that you sent in, maybe answer carefully, which ones do you feel like maybe have a decent shot at placing pretty well?
All of them.
It's so hard to say because lager used to kind of be a sneaky way for people to sneak one in and try and get a medal. That seems to kind of be the way that people play the game now, is they enter the category where they think there'll be the least entries or the least amount of competition. Let's enter
I was gonna say
enter
you
a
could
Scotch
enter-
ale and see how we, there's 20 entries nationwide for World Beer Cup or whatever. So we did enter in a few categories where I'm sure there are going to be some stiff competition, especially with lager getting some play now. I think Schlaps has a chance. I think it's pretty clean. It sits right where it needs to for the American lager style. Provisional Stacks, I will say I love that beer, but in any hazy IPA contest, it's who knows? You never know.
Yeah.
I do know we either made it to the second to last or the final table for World Beer Cup for 755 this year. So we were super psyched about that. I guess that's a Blackstack beer, but
It's a banger.
yeah, I think the two lagers have a shot. I think Schlaps probably has the best shot though. Of all of them, I think that one is, in terms of can art, in terms of like the concept of the beer, kind of mocking, not even mocking, but kind of the tongue-in-cheek take on like Schmidt, Schlitz, just the design of the can. I think that one's probably got the best shot across the board, from design to taste to style.
Yeah.
Is that what it's supposed to be?
Yeah, you didn't pick up
Yeah.
on that?
No, I thought it
That's
was a
supposed to be an
Minnesota Twins
old-timey-
thing. I thought it was a Minnesota Twins thing. I thought the logo kind of was like the Twins colors a little bit. And I was like, oh, it's got to be one of their baseball things up there. I don't know.
They'd keep it
Kinda.
Twins colors because we're Minnesotans. We do love
Yeah.
the Twins scheme, the red, white, and blue. We felt like it's a good color scheme. But yeah, it's kind of just I think the font, when we picked the font from wherever we purchased it from, I think the font is actually called Coors. I think they were ripping off of the Coors font when they designed it. So it was like, oh, perfect.
I thought it was a baseball thing. I thought it was like, oh, they're slapping the ball or something like that. That's honestly what I thought it was. I was like, oh, yeah, that's a Twins
Hey.
logo. I got it. I'm in the joke now. I'm in the joke now, but I wasn't then, I guess.
Also kind of pokes fun at the phrase, oh, it slaps, it slaps.
And how?
And how, yeah.
You might need to make that pitch to Target Field. No
Oh
pun
man,
intended, make the pitch.
someone brought that up. I was like, if only I could make that much beer, that would be amazing. I would love it. I would only make Schlaps for the rest of my life if I could get it on at the Twins game. But man, how many kegs do you think they go through by the third inning?
Oh boy. Yeah, I might need to up production a little bit. No, I that was gonna be my guess. I think Schlaps is probably, I mean, I love lagers, but I think that's such a good beer, especially since you guys are just starting out. Like, I think people have just been so impressed with right out of the gate, because a lot of times there's kind of that warm up period, getting used to bigger equipment with these home brewers. But obviously, you live on the big equipment. It's just kind of a lateral move.
Yeah,
So
yeah. This is actually the smallest brew house I've ever professionally brewed on.
you're going the reverse way.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because a lot of times people plan on dumping their first batch when they're going through a new brew house, just because they don't want to the time you waste in fermenting something out. But it was one of those things where I have enough tools. I've done this enough times that we were so close on all of our metrics. I think we were off by a single tenth of a point Plato. We were right on pH. Everything seemed fine. So it's like, you know what? Screw it. Like, I didn't think we were going to hit it this on point on the first run, but send it to the tank. And if I don't hit gravity, or if I don't hit my metrics tomorrow, we'll dump the whole thing. It's totally fine. It's a pretty light recipe, but it, just 2 days in a row hit all the numbers and just said, you know what, let's see how it goes. Let's see what we can get out of this system. And it, obviously the rest is there. It turned out. I think it's probably going to be our only like flagship, the one that's going to return. I have another one coming up. I think this weekend we'll be brewing another batch to kind of replenish. We're already down to like 30 or 40 cases of it. So we gotta make sure we don't run out for the summer. So that's kind of our only flagship. It's really the only beer that we had pre-conceptualized coming into the project. The rest of it was just kind of a grab bag. We kind of designed it to be almost like a skateboard company. Grew up skating. Haggard to me was also like a skating term growing up. Oh, so Haggard, so gnarly.
Right. Yeah.
And we kind of wanted to leave it open. Our designer Josh does an amazing job, but if we have any friends who want to design something, It's kind of like I always use element. You might have a completely different graphic on that deck from skater to skater, from brand to brand, so to speak. So, if any of our friends had like an idea for graphic design or something like that, that they could become a part of that, and that it doesn't necessarily need to be exactly the same, but the unifying element is the little guy riding the little, we call him Scrags. Our little skeleton
Nice.
guy Scrags is kind of the unifying theme across all of the brands. Um, so nothing is like pre-conceptualized. It's just if someone has a cool idea, let's run with it. We don't have to worry about necessarily, is that the exact same design? Is it consistent across all brands in every single way possible? It's more just to kind of keep it fun, keep it light. Um, World Industries was one of my favorite brands growing up. Flame Boy and Wet Willie, if you remember those guys, they were always, wailing on each other, getting into mischief. We kind of thought Scrags would kind of be our, Flame Boy and Wet Willie. We'd get him into some hijinks later on and figure out some fun ways to kind of play around with that. But I don't remember why I started getting on that topic, but yeah.
Oh, what size barrel system are you on again?
7.
7.
We have 7 with some 20 barrel tanks that we really just use as 14s.
Mhm.
And then we have 1 7 barrel. We have 2 10s actually. This goes back to Josh at Wooden Ship being Ultimate G. He had 2 10 barrel tanks that were sitting in storage. They were getting ready to get rid of their storage unit, and he said, "Well, I can't fit them in my brewery for now. You just want to use them? That'll be our, you pay, you're paying for storing them for us by basically just being able to use them when you want." So we're gonna plug those guys in pretty soon. Start moving around on those. So we've got 2 10s, a 7, and a couple 20s, and then also a 20 barrel bright tank. So
That's just crazy to me. I use a 15 barrel system where I brew.
Mhm.
And it's just crazy because we just did our like 3rd canning run the entire time we've been open. We do 1 canning run a year so far. And I mean, it's a mobile canning that comes in, and it's just essentially we did 1 pallet of our American IPA, 1 pallet of our Mexican lager. But it sounds like, just the amount that you're distributing and stuff like that. We're feels like we're the opposite. Most of our stuff goes through a tap room. It does help that we are the only brewery in a suburb of Columbus. So that definitely helps.
yeah, yeah,
But
having that exclusivity, that's huge. You guys got rakes on your mash?
yeah.
15? I always like to throw it back to everybody that I worked with at Liftbridge, the open top NSI Newland system, no rakes, 15 barrel.
I
Build up those shoulders, man. It's nuts. Isn't that crazy to think about? A 15 barrel, you got a hand stir. It's rough.
In my professional brewing experience, I feel like I've been very spoiled. I got this job. I started as a cellar tech, worked my way up. I'm the assistant brewer, been brewing for about a year now. And it's been essentially like a lot of people come in. I have some other brewers that come in, check it out, and some friends from out of state. And they're just like, "Lucas, you're downplaying this." I was like, I don't have anything to compare it to. It's a steam. It's powered by steam. It heats and does everything like that. I just press a button most of the time, or I move a lever. That's all I got to do.
Yep.
I don't have any like, oh, I had to stir. I don't have like any horror stories to base my stuff off.
Yep. And it's funny. Most of my horror stories in brewing come from when the automation and those kinds of systems fail. It's not. I don't have a lot of horror stories from Liftbridge of stuck mashes. This that, and stuck mash. All right, stop runoff and stir your mash again. Like get down there and stir. When you have rakes, they only work so well to a point. And I think that most of the horror stories I have are when sticking it on a system with rakes, or a system with automation where a solenoid valve doesn't open to drain your whirlpool or whatever. On our system, it really almost is a huge homebrewing system. You'd recognize a lot of the processes look a lot like homebrewing processes with the brewery at Haggard, but because it's like that, there's very little chance for anything to fail. It's pretty straightforward. We can't really decoct. We can't really do a lot of complicated things, but as far as wort production goes, it works out, and there's really not a whole lot of ways to goof it up or to like really muck up the process. So when you hit that button and the steam doesn't come on, uh-oh. I'm not, I mean, I do have a boiler license, but I'm not a boiler technician. I don't, uh-oh. The float.
I've been very fortunate where all I've had to do was hit reset on the boiler. I haven't had to do any. Yeah, fingers crossed. We've had more problems with glycol than the brew house. Yeah.
Yep. Definitely been there. The last 2 systems I worked on were steam, but when that steam fails, that's woof, that's rough.
Yeah.
Same thing with my electric kettle, though. It's if that doesn't go, you're in trouble. But yeah, so we do pump out quite a bit, and our canning line is really slow. I'm sure that mobile line that you guys bring, it's probably, I'm assuming, a 4-head or a 5-head goose or equivalent unit. We're on a Fillmore 4-head counter pressure line, so we're running like 10 to 12 cans a minute.
We're not doing that. We're not doing that.
Yeah, it's pretty painful. I think a 14-barrel batch usually takes us about 6 hours to can it all, so it's pretty rough, but gotta do it. Gotta keep cranking them out.
Yeah.
It's not rough. It's Haggard.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
We don't have a tap room yet, so every single time we pull off half barrel, a couple half barrel kegs, there's 10 or so cases that we don't have to package. So as we get the tap room going, we get a little more consistency in terms of what we know we need to split packaging out into. I'm sure that'll also kind of save us some time. So we'll see. But yeah, it's been pretty crazy to see how the market's responded. And I gotta give it up for Gabe too. Every single time he's gone and done a tasting somewhere around the Twin Cities in some of the best beer buying spots in the cities, he's either sold them out of what they had or gotten close enough that they needed to re-up. So we got to give it up for Gabe, because almost every time he's had a tasting, it's an instant reorder for that account too. So I want to say in the 2 months that he's been going, those 10 or 12, 14 accounts or whatever have ordered 2 or 3 times already. So, which is really great to see that it's getting repeat in the same spot. We're not necessarily just having to increase the amount of stores. So we've been really lucky to have him aboard. So,
all right. Well, appreciate having you on, Karl, and joining us. I'm guessing Instagram is probably the best place to find you guys.
Yep, Instagram is the best place. We're on Facebook. I honestly, it's been so many years since I used Facebook. I was like struggling. I felt like I don't like calling people boomers, but just like in terms of like tech savviness, like I was clicking around trying to figure things out again. It was just like, damn, it's been a while. I might have to hand social media off to someone else here soon. We've actually got someone else on board. Her name's Lizzie. She's been doing some really cool stuff for us lately. If you've been seeing the stories, the action shots, a lot of the picture quality, you can kind of draw a line. You can figure out where I was taking the pictures and started. But
don't sell yourself short.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm all right. I spend enough time with my face buried in my phone that I know what looks terrible and what doesn't. But she's a professional.
Hey, I knew where to go to buy beer and when. That's all that matters.
Yeah, the big deets. That's make sure people know where to go.
Guys, if you do enjoy this podcast and you want to find more Illuminati Brewing Collective, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, wherever you use social media, pretty much.
And our own website at illuminati.beer.
I forgot we had one of those, not gonna lie.
Yeah, you only dedicated like 6 months of your life to it.
I did. Yeah, that was super, super fun. The most enjoyable 6 months of my life. But anyways, that's not relevant. Like I said, if you guys do enjoy this podcast and you want more Illuminati Brewing Collective, check us out on all socials and at illuminati.beer. Oh, wow. I almost tripped myself up on that one.
I thought you were going .com.
No, it gets me every time. So, yeah. Again, Karl, thank you for taking some time today. Sit down and talk with us about all things Haggard. guys, go follow them on socials. I just posted about how much I love your brewery. So thank you again.
We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
Best of luck.
Yeah.
Keep trucking.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, fellas. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Carl.